the need for the HSE to establish adequate supports in Carlow, Kilkenny for the Camphill and L'Arche organisations and their provision of services for people with disabilities. The Deputy's 4 minutes.
Look, I want to raise the issue in relation to L'Arche Kilkenny, who have been in negotiation with the HSE for increased funding for the services that they deliver in Kilkenny. Now, I think it's well known the services that deliver and the excellent services that are there for those that have to access them. But what I find extremely disappointing is the response from the HSE. Now, L'Arche Kilkenny has had to carry out significant works to the tune of roughly €300,000 to satisfy HICWA, to employ the standards of individuals that are now required at FETAC 5, I think, and they're quite happy to do all of that. But in their negotiations with the HSE, they have been put on the long finger. This negotiation is going on since July, and monies were to be paid over to L'Arche to ensure that their expenses and that what the debt incurred was covered up to the end of 2015, and that thereafter an increased level of funding is required by the organisation. In Kilkenny, the L'Arche is running at a deficit of €18,000 a month, and they are extremely concerned that they may very well have to close the service. In fact, one family whom I've dealt with directly had the experience of trying to negotiate the care for their family member and were again disappointed by the response from the HSE. Now, these are individuals that are advocating for family members who presumably some of them are of the same age as the person being cared for. They might be brothers or sisters. Why put those families through the stress and the difficulties that they have now been experiencing? The parents and those concerned have come together in a public meeting, and they have issued a statement to the local papers expressing their disappointment with the response from the HSE. And indeed, in the covering letter to me, they say, "We have no faith in the HSE to deliver the funding half promised for so long, and are angry and upset that some of our elderly parents are being put through this worry and upset at this time of their lives. For some residents, it is their brother or sister that takes on the role of advocate, and we want it to be known that we will not sit idly by." Why do they have to fight a case like this? Why is it that the service is not recognised by the Department Minister, and that the funding which has been half committed is given to them proactively in a spirit of good faith and partnership, so that they can continue without worry to the end of 2015, and to give them an early indication of what increase they will receive in the context of their funding for 2016. So it is extremely unfair to these individuals and to this organisation. And may I say that the same thing is happening in relation to respite at St Patrick's Special School. That funding is now there, but it's being parked while other delivery of services is being examined. But while that's being parked, parents have to deal with the issue, and they're stressed out and at the end of their tether. So why not again ensure that speedily the professionals are put in place and this respite is given? Lastly, I just want to say, because it's in the same vein, Tiernan Oak in Carlow, they provide services, respite services for children with special needs, and they are looking for $320,000 from the HSE in cooperation with a local developer to provide the services that are necessary in Carlow. And they too have been stalled by the HSE. Not stalled, they've been stonewalled by the HSE. Meeting after meeting after meeting, but no actual response from the HSE in terms of the delivery of the funding that is necessary to continue the services, to expand the services, or indeed in the case of Tiernan Oak, to ensure that they are given the appropriate capital fund. Now, the estimates are out today in terms of the supplementary estimates that are required. Surely within those estimates there is sufficient funding to give commitments to the end of 2015, and that thereafter, because you know their case, that the funding can be put in place without an argument, without the stress and the trauma that goes with all of this public action and activity around the neglect of funding for those that are being cared for, that it can be put in place to the extent that they know what they're getting and that they can plan.
Could I just say that before I give you the official response, there was no indication about St Patrick's or Ternanog in the question, Deputy, and I hope you understand that I can't reply to that because I didn't have any notice of it. But I didn't have any notice of it, Deputy. You have to understand that. I wish to thank the Deputy for raising the issue today, and I am pleased to outline the position in relation to Camphill and L'Arche organisations. Could I just say as an aside that Senator and Minister Anne Phelan has been bending my ear on the whole issue of Camphill and L'Arche in Kilkenny for the last number of weeks, so I just wish to acknowledge that. I very much acknowledge the important contribution that Camphill communities, with the support of the Health Service Executive, have made for providing services for people with disabilities across 17 centres in Ireland over the years. The HSE is acutely aware of the resource shortfall presented by Camphill and is currently engaging with them to develop a set of proposals to resolve the challenges over an agreed period of time. This includes a commitment to supporting the organisations to reconfigure the current model of service and funding arrangements to a more sustainable model, while still maintaining the particular ethos of the service. And I think the ethos in this case is hugely important. The HSE recognises the volunteer nature of the service model in Camphill, and over recent years of austerity where funding reductions were necessary, the HSE kept the reductions in Camphill funding to a minimum, as with other similar volunteer-type services. It is my understanding that the current challenges facing Camphill have arisen in the context of implementation of national standards for residential care introduced in late 2013, which are regulated by the Health Information and Quality Authority. I am aware that some of the 17 Camphill communities have experienced particular challenges in achieving compliance and that others have progressed well. The HSE will continue to collaborate with HICWA and the Camphill communities to achieve full compliance in all centres over the next few years as resources become available. The HSE is also aware of the financial challenges facing L'Arche services in Callan, County Kilkenny at this time, and has been in ongoing contact with the management of L'Arche over recent weeks and months in an effort to find a solution to these difficulties. I am aware that these difficulties stem from compliance issues with the regulatory environment, which require that the model of service previously provided by L'Arche be reviewed and enhanced. HSE has been working with all voluntary service providers on improving compliance during 2015, addressing the highest risk areas as a priority. These efforts will continue, and in 2016, and preparation of the HSE service and operational plans will be underpinned by a focus on making the best use of the resources invested in disability services. I can assure the deputies that the HSE remains committed to working with the Camphill and L'Arche organisations and to be as supportive as possible within current financial constraints. I can also assure service users and their families that the HSE will concentrate all its efforts in the continued provision of services in the local community, and that work is ongoing with those affected to resolve the current difficulties.
Can I say to you, Minister, that's the greatest example of political waffle that I have heard in this House for a long time, and you know this. That is just describing what the issue is. It's not in any way attempting to answer the question that I put to you on behalf of the parents of those that are using the service. And the fact of the matter is that a commitment has been entered into by the HSE. Funding and figures have been discussed. And you have refused in your answer to even deal with it. The only point you make with confidence is that somebody is bending your ear. Well, I can tell you that the ears of the HSE have been bent, and yet they have not responded in the way that I would expect, because of the fact that they're dealing with the vulnerable and those that are in need of the service, in need of a commitment from the HSE to tell them that they will have the money before the end of the year, to tell them that the money that they require for next year will be there for them. Can you not address that particular question and at least tell them, so that they can take the anxiety out of their lives and take the anxiety out of those that volunteer and help and contribute to Camphill, L'Arche, Tirnanog and all of the others who are trying to ensure that they get the best for the clients that they have? I think it's absolutely, it's regrettable, and I can't find words to describe it. It's an avoidance of the issue of addressing what is a real concern for parents. You could have used the opportunity to announce that it was at an advanced stage, to tell them when they might get the money. But instead you choose to waffle nonsense in this House. And you know, Minister, more than most in this House, because you're here in the opposition, taking a different kind of stance and role, that is not an acceptable answer. They're not your words. They're words from the civil servants.
Your sense of outrage is exactly the same about every single situation that you address in this House, whether it's in PAC or in here. You are, excuse me, Chair, do I have the right to speak? Do I have the right to speak?
And it's shocking
that you try and speak.
No. Give them the money.
Deputy and Minister, you're supposed to make your remarks through the Chair. You shouldn't. And
I am addressing you, Chair. Am I allowed to speak? I didn't interrupt him.
Deputy. Don't refer directly to him, if you know what I mean. Don't speak directly to the Deputy.
Could I say that your sense of outrage and your attitude towards everything in this House is exactly the same? Every time I hear you, no matter what the issue is, your tone is the same, your sense of outrage is the same. Outrage, Deputy McGuinness, doesn't solve problems. We are in negotiation.
Sorry,
please,
please,
Deputy McGuinness, try and have a little bit of respect. I know you don't do it often, but just try it on this occasion. It usually works. Try it on this occasion. We are in negotiations. We are very conscious that there are difficulties, and we are equally conscious that these people provide an incredible service, and we don't want to lose that service. But your sense of outrage, your lack of respect, is not doing them any good.